So the night's running kind of late and inconvenient. It's sort of like being friends with D. It's, you know what's funny about most of Mr. Mike Edison's jokes? Nothing. But anyway, I was. I know, sorry. I got really close with D. Somehow I avoided being really close with D back when we should have met in the really bad old days. And we started playing with Mr. Robert Kennedy, who I'll be playing with later. And me and D just like kind of absolutely fell in love with each other and spent a lot of time. I helped get him into rehab and sat with him, like just sat on him for like 3 nights, you know, hearing all of his absurd stories and give him a 40 ounce every night so I didn't get the shakes to get into the to get into the place. And you know, the thing about D is I'm still, and I don't know, you know, everybody, yeah, it's a love fest, but I'm still fucking pissed at him. Like I haven't really gone to the sorrow part. I'm just expecting him to wake up at some point so he can somehow blame us for what happened. And, you know, yeah, it's true. But, you know, the other thing about D that I will say is me and Jude Weber over here started a little thing called the Arturo Bandinis, where we did a bunch of residencies and played a bunch of gigs where some nights it would be jazz, some nights it would just be me and D fighting because I wanted to play quieter and he just wanted to play like that, but better. and you know, that the guy made me laugh. You know, my 7-year-old daughter still adored him, and when he went through everything he went through in this last year, you know, he was insufferable. And I still loved him, and I mean, my daughter was like, he would call me up, and I don't know, probably some of you have had this experience too over the last year with D. He'd call me up and be like, D, and he would be like, ah! And I would be like, man, use your words, you got to talk, you know. And he went through a lot, and I still, you know, everything he went through with his breakup and everything. I think the thing that really got D is I mean, one of the greatest drummers, you know, like such a pleasure to play with, such a smart guy, just knew everything about all these crazy, you know, obscure records, but had as much love for the obscure records as, you know, Donna Lee by Charlie Parker or something, and would talk about them with the same excitement. But I think the thing that got D in the end is, you know, when COVID hit and we all went to our corners in isolation, you know, D's played with everybody from Professor Longhair to Johnny Thunders to, of course, the Tetras. And, you know, he's got a really funny story about him, Jeffrey Lee Pierce, and Alan Vega starting a ad hoc gun club. And somewhere the cassette is. Yeah, you know. But I think the thing that got D is like, man, the guy always wanted to play. He would be like, hey, I'm playing tonight, 4 o'clock at Otto's Shrunken Head on a Tuesday. Like he just needed to get behind that fucking kit and have a sense of community. And as great of a drummer as he was, and as cranky of a fucking bastard as he was, he always stayed curious and he always stayed full of love. And, you know, he hated you guys. He hated me, too. You know, the only problem, I mean, he adored us, too, but the only problem with D is there's probably not one person in this room that he didn't hate more than he hated himself. But I love the guy, and I still am waiting for him to show up again and give me shit, and I can give him shit. And like I said before, D was like Mo, Larry, and Curly all in one individual. Much more Stooges than Marx Brothers. But anyway, I'm going to play a song that D really loved, and then we're going to play an old American folk song from a band that D played in